Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment's silent reflection for our servicemen and women throughout the world and for those who have passed away in our community, especially Thomas Wojtek and Charles Gaius. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. King?
Here.
Mr. Schuster?
Present.
Dr. Rothchild?
Here.
Mr. McAndrew?
Present.
Mr. Smurl?
Here. Dispense with reading of minutes.
Third order, 3A, check received from Comcast representing the CATV franchise fee for quarter 3 of 2025. 3B, correspondence dated November 13, 2025 from City Business Administration regarding Parks and Recreation and DPW budget transfers. 3C, correspondence dated November 14, 2025 from City Business Administration regarding licensing, inspection, and Permits Department budget transfer. 3D, Controller's Report for the month ending October 31st, 2025.
Are there any comments on any of the third order items? If not, received and filed. Do any council members have any announcements at this time?
I have one. This Santa Parade Community Breakfast will be held at the Elm Park United Methodist Church, Saturday, November 22nd, 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. at 712 Linden Street, Scranton. Join for a joyful morning of food, fellowship, festive cheer, celebrate the Santa Parade together. Breakfast is open to the public at no cost. All are welcome. They're also collecting some new unwrapped toys, monetary donations to help bring holiday magic and cheer to children who need a partnership with Toys for Tots. No registrations required. So that's Saturday, November 22nd. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah. So I got an announcement. It's the annual Scranton Police Department's annual toy drive. It's this Friday, the 21st, at 5 p.m. It's at the Waldorf Park Social Club. Also, bring a new unwrapped toy. Entertainment by DJ Danny Kaye. I think a lot of people know who that is. This is a great event I go to every year. But unfortunately, my daughter's running in the Philly half marathon. I'll be down in Philly. But guess what? You can drop off a toy. I'm going to drop off a toy at headquarters. If you can't make it, they'll definitely take one at police headquarters. And I have another one, if you just give me a second here. So also this Sunday, November 23rd, at the Yucca Vets over on West Side and Railroad Avenue, they're having their Thanksgiving turkey raffle. They have 15 turkey raffles, 50-50, some snacks. It's a great time, too, that I've been to in the past. It's a great event. So if you can make it, help them out. And that is all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I have one for the Scranton Municipal Recreation Authority. They're having an emergency food drive on Saturday, November 22nd, and Sunday, November 23rd, between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. at the NAOG Community Room located at the Olive Street Park entrance area. Donations requested are non-perishable foods with no expired dates. Also, ECTV will notify the public by including it in their daily station news feed throughout the weekend.
Fourth order, citizen participation.
First, Joan Hodowanis.
Joan Hodowanis, Scranton. Well, I am not a happy camper tonight. I was back on the city website just to check, and there are still no audits and no union contracts on the website. Now, even though I don't own property, I do pay property taxes for a close relative. So the money I earn through my blood, sweat, and tears, I expect to see audits and the union contracts on that website. They were there once. No one said they were going to be removed. No one said why. No one has said when they're coming back. I want to look at those things. That's how when I review your proposed budget for next year, there are questions like, why is there health insurance for DPW when there's no union contract? You know, I just don't understand. Why am I paying property tax when I can't have access to the documents I need? And the rest of the city too. And then there's this whole idea of the zoning amendment. So I asked the question last week about, well, was this a first heard for the residents? This is the answer I get back from the city. Submission of legislation to City Council initiated the formal 30-day public comment process. The city encourages public input on the proposed zoning change, including from patients, hospital employees, residents, business leaders, Geisinger, and neighbors, and has had many conversations already. A public hearing will be held on December 9th prior to the city council meeting. You know, I wasn't born yesterday. This proposed change was dropped into the legislative agenda without any prior advertisement, conversations. I hope that every resident in the Hill section comes down and voices their opinion. And I don't think it's going to be very favorable. The issue isn't, you know, that Geisinger is proposing a change. It's the way this proposal is being fed into the legislative agenda at the end of the year before the makeup of city council is going to change. But we shall see what we shall see. Do we have a new DPW director, or was that just an acting head that was talking here tonight?
That's the
Acting head?
acting
It's the manager.
Okay.
manager.
He's
Well-
not, he's not the acting or interim.
I'm sorry?
He is not the acting or interim DPW
Because you could only
director,
be
for
in how
clarity's
many
sake.
days if you're, yeah, I know that little game. Oh, boy. Yes, you know, in the budget, they're proposing a pay increase from $79,000 to $88,000 for that position. We'll see who takes the bait and how long they'll last. How many department heads have we had over the last 4 or 5 years? You know, it's been like a revolving door, hasn't it? Well, we shall see what we shall see. That's an 11.14% increase in pay. As you look at the rest of most of the union workers and other personnel, it's 3 or 4% at most. So good luck. But anyway, I want to hear what the residents of the Hill section have to say about this zoning change and the way it has come forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Joan. Mr. Voldenberg, will you ask the administration where, if the audit was moved or if the contracts were moved somewhere on our website? I know they were there, but I don't know where they have been.
I will, Mr. Smurl.
Thank you. Mike Mancini?
Mike Mancini, Scranton. I speak in front of council and its citizens of Scranton weekly because I care about our city. However, not answering my questions is not a good approach. When you refuse to answer my questions, which happen to be the same concerns as others, it offends them as well. I continue to bring up the opioid crisis in our city. Since my son's passing, I have met quite a few families from Scranton who have felt the very same loss. There are so many families who live without justice, which falls on deaf ears. You have offended them and let them down. How many more will perish without justice before each of you regain your proper morals that were taught to you by your parents? Each of you refuses to answer as if eventually I will no longer appear. That will not happen. Each of you should be ashamed of yourselves. Apparently, my upbringing was better than yours. I was raised by an amazing woman who instilled my proper values. One of so many is to care about others. Another was her strength, which lives within me, is to overcome so much adversity. I will never give up on our city or its citizens, unlike each of you. I care about our safety, our police officers, and will always ask the right questions. I hope that one or both of our new council members will choose to answer important questions and find the answers. Our citizens deserve more than Geico, the bare minimum. As promised, here is what a supermajority council could accomplish in 2026. Remove the piece of legislation regarding 15 traffic light intersections in downtown Scranton. Remove the extra set of doors downstairs. Negotiate a union contract and stand with DPW. We have the best. All 92 deserve a new contract. Inspect our own pave cuts and increase fines for violations. Over 80% of the storm drains should be maintained by Pennsylvania Water. I would recommend an ordinance that would fine for violations. A 2.5% hotel tax. We left money on the table for decades. Look at all parcels in the possession of the city and market them for sale properly. There were houses on many of those parcels and are rebuildable. Zoning laws allow for barn dominium and shipping container homes. In 2026, Council needs to have the conversation about data centers. In 2026, Council needs to look at which nonprofits should be on the tax rolls and pay their proper share. In 2026, Council needs to look at our current police entrance exam and determine if there is a better way to find new recruits. The state police testing was more than good enough for our amazing veteran police officers. In 2026, Council needs to make better decisions and find answers to all questions presented before them. I have no clue why each of you choose not to answer my concerns, which are also the very same questions as many others. I am a father who lost his only child, an active Marine, to the opioid crisis. I know the feeling of being so lost without my son. I present Council with major concerns that remain unanswered and deserve your immediate response. I politely ask one last time if one of you who has any sense of compassion, please get answers for the following questions. Where is the breakdown with the police department as to why not one family locally receives justice over a loved one's opioid-related death? How many unprocessed active warrants are there in the city? What is the current process of taking these bad actors off our streets and making them safer? What is the difference between the former drug task force and the current structure? Are there less officers specific to drug-related crimes? When is the next unhoused task force meeting? I ask each of these questions because I care about our safety, our city, and its citizens.
Can you hear me now? Good evening, Scranton.
Thank you. Bob Durkin?
Good evening. I'm Bob Durkin, President of the Greater Scranton Chamber of Commerce. As I've said in previous opportunities to speak to Council, I represent nearly 500 businesses that are members of the Chamber of Commerce, representing roughly 30,000 jobs, employees in the city of Scranton. I'm here today to talk in a preliminary fashion about the proposed zoning changes up on the Hill. When I speak to you, whether it's here in front of the council chamber formally or individually, we almost always talk about purely economic development. It's about the chamber's perspective. Again, we represent the business community. We're looking at opportunities to strengthen the existing business community, to provide opportunities to attract new business, and opportunities to grow new businesses, which we're doing in a number of different spaces and ways, oftentimes very much hand in hand with the city of Scranton. The reason I wanted to talk to you tonight, at the direction of our board of directors, has to do with sort of the broad issue of health care in general. As I thought about this as a component of pure economic development, when you think about what attracts or helps retain businesses or attracts or retains talented individuals to your community, there are a number of key factors. Obviously, cost of living is at the top of the list, along with housing, access to quality education, but equal to these is access to quality health care. We've been blessed here in the city of Scranton for many decades, 100 plus years, of having a number of quality educational, healthcare institutions serving our community. But I think we all recognize the circumstances that we stand here in 2025 are very different. I'll digress from the specifics of the zoning just for a moment to talk about the situation with CHS. So we at the Chamber of Commerce have been at center, along with the governor's office, our local state officials, local foundations, the chamber, and other healthcare institutions like the Wright Center and Allied Services, where we have been working over the last year to try to identify a candidate or candidate organizations to take over the products and services and facilities of CHS. And we have somebody now. We have Tenor Healthcare Foundation that's teed up. Now, I'm just going to say this. There are a lot of unanswered questions with respect to whether Tenor is going to be successful. And so we're really concerned about this, both as a group of organizations that have been meeting regularly on this, but also from our perspective as a Chamber of Commerce. We hope it's going to play out. We're working hand in hand. We're trying to help them to move things along. But I'm not here to say that anything about that specifically, as much as to talk about the need for us collectively to invest in the healthcare infrastructure of the city of Scranton. Now, when we look, I'll give you an example of how this often plays out in economic development. Mount Pleasant, the development on the gateway into downtown Scranton, just on the other side of the river, where you see Geisinger, Sheets, and other medical properties. That was 12 years in the making for the Chamber of Commerce, where we acquired those properties, we cleaned the properties up, we put in the infrastructure, teed it up, and got it ready, and cleared the deck, as it were, for opportunities. In this case, Geisinger is the organization that really came in and stepped up and said they were interested in moving into those properties. I'm not here to support or broadcast a pledge for Geisinger. I'm simply saying that's how that happened. We had to do the proactive things to make sure that when the opportunity presented itself, that we could be there and we could move those properties and put quality healthcare facilities onto that space. When I think about and we look at what's happening, the proposal up here on the Hill, and the zoning changes, it's really the same thing. What council really needs to do, what we're asking you to do, is to tee it up, prepare those sites, pass these zoning changes so that when the opportunity presents itself, as it seems to be presenting itself through Geisinger, they'll be able to make do and do what's necessary to continue to provide quality health care for the city of Scranton, the residents of the city, and the entire region. So I know it's a complicated issue, and I fully respect the property owners who are concerned about this. But I have to say, we need to recognize the bigger picture. It's about quality health care for all of us, for quality health care for the city of Scranton, and that goes hand in hand with economic development. So thank you for your time today.
Thank you. Megan, and also is Nick Coleman. Are you going to come together?
Thank you for inviting us to present to this council and to the community. My name is Megan Brocious, and I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Geisinger. I'm joined tonight by Nick Coleman, who oversees clinical operations at Geisinger Community Medical Center. As some of you know, we are willing to attend the council caucus meeting on December 2nd and look forward to answering council's questions at that time. Tonight, we plan to spend our 5 minutes discussing the significant investments that Geisinger recently made at GCMC and our reasons for supporting the zoning amendment that has been introduced by the mayor. When Woodbridge Health terminated its proposed acquisition of Moses Taylor and Regional Hospital of Scranton last November, we began to prepare for the very real possibility that we would be the only hospital operating in Scranton. GCMC is an academic medical center, and it is Lackawanna County's only trauma center, certified comprehensive heart attack center, and the highest volume emergency room by far because of its leading expertise in emergency medicine and critical care. We deliver the best acute care in this county and surrounding rural communities. At GCMC, we train and recruit and retain the clinicians who will care for this community for years to come. We issued a news release last week detailing some critical upgrades that we've recently made and are in progress of. The 41 inpatient beds, 19 postpartum beds, 24 emergency room treatment areas, continuing care nursery, NICU, endoscopy suite, MRI machine, and patient transport expansion are a fraction of the growth strategy we have known was necessary for a long time. These improvements, and I cannot stress this enough, represent the absolute end of the line with what we can do inside the hospital as it stands today. We are maxed out. There is no more room to grow. What you probably don't know is that we've accelerated much of that work in the last year because we are profoundly concerned about healthcare in Scranton. Year to date in 2025, we are caring for 30% more adult inpatients and are on pace to deliver 37% more babies than we did 4 years ago. Much of that is a result of other services closing and consolidating. We don't know how that trend is going to spike if we have hospitals close in this city, but we're trying to stay ahead of that possibility. Tenor acquiring these hospitals and running them in a way that Scranton needs and deserves is the best case scenario for everyone here tonight and in this city, county, and region. But there are several things still outstanding before that can happen. Tenor must complete their regulatory review, and it needs to secure funding to complete its purchase. I know many of you here tonight are opposed to Geisinger's rezoning proposal, were opposed in 22 and 23, and I'm not here to be critical of that. Both Nick and I were not involved in that process, and I look forward to our discussion at the caucus session on December 2nd. I now ask Nick to add his thoughts.
Great, thank you, Megan. Thank you for having me as well. If the mayor's proposed zoning amendment is adopted, we would obviously propose improvements below the 100-foot height limit if the proposed civic zone. But the simple fact is, we cannot meet the needs of this community at GCMC within the current 45-foot height limitation in the institution zone. This is about our ability to grow the healthcare services this city needs and deserves. I have met with the Hill Neighborhood Association twice and its leadership several times. I have committed to meeting with them regularly throughout our planning process and development if we're given the chance to better serve our community. I know that many phases of development, notably the land development plan process, provide several touch points and discussions and collaborations to determine the best way forward to ensure the expansion would work with the existing neighborhood and hospital campus. There have been previous requests to commission traffic and parking studies to make sure we do what's right by the neighborhood. If the mayor's proposed zoning amendment is granted that permits hospital buildings and parking structures, we will commission those studies. I appreciate the time of Scranton City Council and all the city residents here tonight. In a time of uncertainty, I need to leave you with one certainty. If the zoning amendment is denied, we will be forced to look elsewhere in the county to expand. We are out of options, and the city and county need access to more care. The best place to expand is right here, where we already have the community's only trauma center, a comprehensive heart attack center, and the best emergency room. But we can't wait for another chance. The consequences of waiting and failing to deliver could be devastating. We would move quickly and immediately invest in growing outside of the city. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah, before you leave, Mr. Coleman, and what was your last name? Megan?
Brocious.
What was it?
Brocious?
Brocious.
Brocious, yes.
Currently, there is a process to get, so the zoning for those blocks is 45 feet. If you'd like to go above 45 feet, there is an opportunity for you to approach the zoning hearing board and ask for a special exemption or a variance for that. Are you aware that that's a process you could take?
We are aware that that's a process you can take, but in order for us to do that, we would have to invest a significant amount of the dollars that we have allocated for this project to come up with a plan that we don't know if it would be approved or not. So what we're seeking is maximum flexibility with our assets so that we can serve the community best using those dollars to create as much capacity as possible.
Okay, and the other thing that you said is many people here tonight are here to oppose it, and some of us up here, depending on what way it's going to go, are going to have our vote in it as well. But I don't think there's anybody here that's going to oppose it, but it is, in the current situation, it's an all or none. You're putting us in a position where it's either you vote for it or you don't, where I think what the neighbors are looking for is a compromise. If you could come to the zoning board, ask for that variance, I think the compromise that you may bring to the table may be accepted by the individuals in this room and in this neighborhood and on this council. But I just wanted to make that known.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you. Les Spindler?
Good evening, Council. Les Spindler, city resident homeowner. First of all, I want to send my thoughts and prayers to the family of Tom Wojtek. I know Mr. Smurl, you talked about him. I knew Tom for a long time. He ran Tom's Garage downtown here. Used to take my car to him. Way back in the day, played softball in 2 different leagues against his younger brother, Bob, who's a fellow Trip Park resident. So known him for a long time, so my thoughts and prayers go out to that family. Next thing, everybody's talking about the hospital. You know, most of these people are going to come up here and talk tonight. They don't live in the hill section. They're not going to have to wake up in the morning. Let's see, a 100-foot parking garage out their window when they look out the window. These residents, they fought it years ago, and now it's on the agenda again. It's being shoved down their throats. I don't live in the hill anymore, but I used to. Was born and raised in the hill section. And instead of looking out and seeing Nayog Park, you're going to see a parking garage. This should not be voted on. And you should vote this down. And 2 of you are lame ducks, so you shouldn't be voting on this. This should be, as Mr. Skikidi said last week, it should be tabled till the new council takes over in January, and let's take it from there. Next thing, I was watching the evening news on Channel 16 Sunday night, and I heard that they had a recycle event for electronics. Was that broadcasted or advertised? I never heard anything about it.
Yes, it was mentioned here. I think you.
I announced it last week.
Did you? I didn't hear you. Because I've had a TV I wanted to get rid of for a year now, and it's sitting down my basement. And I didn't hear you. It should have been in a newspaper or even on the news. So the city dropped the ball there. Lastly, 2005 Far Street, there's been a dark red SUV parked there facing the wrong direction for maybe 2 months or more now. There's several tickets on it. The house has an orange sticker on the door, which leads me to believe I think it's condemned. And which I didn't never notice that before. I walked there all the time. But yeah, that vehicle's been there, like I said, with several tickets facing the wrong way. It's abandoned. I mean, it's been in that same position for 2 months, maybe more. So if the city could look into that, it's 2005 Far Street. It's a red Chevy SUV, dark red. And that's all I have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Mr. Voldenberg, I'm sure you'll jump on that. Thank you.
Rick Foley?
Good evening, Council President Smurl, City Council members. Excuse me. I'm Rich Foley with the Eastern Atlantic States Regional Council of Carpenters. I represent almost 1,000 union carpenters in northeastern Pennsylvania and approximately 79 who reside within the city of Scranton. I would like to speak this evening in favor of amending the zoning in relation to hospitals. Medical care is an important issue to all of us. Geisinger Community Medical Center has always done a terrific job of providing medical care in Scranton. They are unfortunately limited by their facility, and it is time to allow them the flexibility to expand and modernize their facility. I believe most of us or our loved ones have experienced delays in care because Geisinger is overdue for expansion and modernization. Sometimes we are forced to seek medical care outside of Scranton. To my members and their families, the medical industry is much more than just a hospital. It is where we work, it is where we earn our pay and our benefits that support our families. Facilities like Geisinger CMC allow us not only to put this generation to work, it allows us to train and grow the next generation of carpenters and apprentices. Projects like this allow us to provide tuition, free training to our young people and keep them in good jobs with good wages, family medical insurance, and retirement, right here in the city of Scranton. Construction jobs are just the start. The facilities are then filled with good-paying jobs. That keeps people living, working, and earning in the city of Scranton. Investments in projects such as this lead to further investments in the city. Businesses want to invest in cities with quality medical care. Growth begins with a project like this. It does not end with a project like this. It's important to send a message that we want investment in Scranton now. Time is of the essence. It is disappointing to see massive investments made in the Wyoming Valley, as well as Danville, while we continue to struggle with medical care in Scranton. These projects could be underway right here, right now, bringing growth and prosperity to Scranton. Thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you. Maggie Craig?
Good evening, Council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak and for listening. My name's Maggie. I live on the 500 block of Colfax Ave. I grew up in the area, went to school in New York City, lived there for about 13 years, moved back here during the pandemic, and then chose to buy a house in the Hill section. Scranton is not the same city that I grew up in. I think there's so much potential in Scranton that not everybody really sees. It's a city of neighborhoods, and our neighborhoods are strong, and the Hill section is a great neighborhood. And I think there's this maybe false dichotomy that's being put forward that it's the neighbors versus healthcare. We absolutely need healthcare in this area. We need more healthcare in this area. But I think the idea that there's only one way to go about that and to get that, and the only way we can have better healthcare is to change a neighborhood that we all love to make it less aesthetically pleasing or to just go through a process that has no oversight. I find that hard to believe. I love that the Chamber of Commerce was here to talk about economic development. I would like to add that what attracts and retains talented individuals to stay in a city is livable cities and responsible governance. And I think, Mr. Schuster, as you put forward, there's a process already in place for this. They can go before the zoning hearing board. And me, myself, that's all I'm asking for, is that this project is given its due diligence. It's not the job of Geisinger to care about things like neighborhood aesthetics, property values, quality of life, sustainability. That's why we have these other avenues in place to have public discourse around what this structure might look like. I hope to see the hospital expand. I look forward to the hospital expanding and there being even better healthcare infrastructure in Scranton. But they are already saying they don't want to invest money in even making a plan. If they're not going to invest money in making a plan, then to show us what they intend to do in our neighborhood, then how can we trust that they have the best interests of neighbors at heart? And I remember when I came here about 2 years ago now, they mentioned maybe we'll put a green roof on top of the garage, but maybe we won't. We have to see once we start building if we have funds for it. I think it's not too much to ask to know what would be put in our neighborhood. Either way, I think it's good that we have the opportunity to speak now, and I hope these discussions about the way that this project moves forward continues to include neighbors and the healthcare community both. Thank you.
Thank you. Wanda Dix?
Good evening, Wanda Dix. I live in North Scranton. I founded a group 2 years ago, Anonymous Helper, AKA Wanda's Wanders, and we're out on the street with the homeless population. And I had a whole thing planned out, but just got an update on my phone that there is a proposed law getting ready to be put through in the state government for the homeless community that instead of arresting them, you have to make sure that you have a shelter in place for them. That is just not, you're homeless, let me pick you up and put you in jail. Because I was doing, I did research, I looked it up, and it costs $62 a day to put that homeless person in jail. And city, states, and federal governments give grants all the time because of the ARAP program. Wouldn't it make more sense in the city to have an interim housing building? We have so many empty buildings around. And 2 years ago, I brought a proposal like that to members, and it's been ignored. I never got it. I showed them what could be done. There's a building on Cedar Ave that could be turned into interim housing, but it just laid flat. But my problem is I go out and I'm feeding 70 people Monday night and Friday night in this city, yet we're telling people we've got 12 homeless people. There's a gap, and I'm trying to fill that gap because we have the nonprofits who were here to help homeless with conditions, with red tape. Well, we have a lack in mental health care, medical care, housing, and job stability. And until we can fix those problems, the homeless population is going to continue to grow. And with the cost of living not matching the cost of living, I'm going to be feeding 100 people twice a week. I'm going to be up to 200 people because I'm not going to tell someone no, because I don't want to see, do you have ID? Do you have a job? No, I'm not going to do that. If someone's hungry, let's feed them. But I want the city to look at the prospects of taking one of these empty buildings and making a homeless shelter, because right now we have 26 beds. That's 20 men, 6 women. And then we get the Code Blues open. That's great. But when is it going to open? Because it's been said that it's going to take up to 6 weeks for Catholic Social Services to open the building. So what are they supposed to do until then? You know, I can only hand out so many blankets, tents, and hand warmers. I don't want to keep them on the street. I want to give them a hand up, not, here, take this and just keep being homeless. So I want to connect them to the right resources, but when the right resources are turning their backs on them, what am I supposed to do? So I really hope City Council will look at the fact of the empty buildings and see if there's any possible way that we can come together and start an interim housing program for these unhoused people. And in this building, you can do career, you can do education, you can do medical, mental health, you can do it all in one building. Because I've heard all the complaints about the homeless, they're all drug addicts, they're this and that. If they don't have the mental health care to take care of their mental health issues, if they don't have the opportunity to get the correct medical care, we're going to continue having the same problems over and over with the homeless community. So at some point, we have to step up and say, okay, you know what, enough's enough. Let's show humanity. Let's show kindness, compassion, and hope. That's all I'm asking.
Thank you, Linda. Barry Bennington.
Good evening, Council. My name is Barry Bennington. I live at 1612 Linden Street. I'm just asking you to reconsider voting for the zoning change. I'd like to keep it the way it was. We all compromised in 2023 to a decent size. And I think we can keep it that way. I don't know why the hospital needs to expand that much. They sat here and explained it, but they're not really giving us a true plan. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Jamie Wilcox.
Good evening. My name is Jamie, and I'm a nurse leader in the emergency department at Geisinger CMC, and I've been a registered nurse there in that department for the last 11 years. I see firsthand the incredible dedication of our team. Every day, we operate at full capacity, utilizing every available space, including hall beds, to ensure patients receive timely care. Our nurses consistently show up with compassion and commitment, prioritizing patient safety above all else. However, the physical limitations of our current environment make it challenging to deliver the level of care our patients truly deserve. We leave each shift knowing that we gave everything we could, but the space constraints prevent us from achieving the standard of excellence we strive for. If we want Geisinger CMC to continue to be our local hospital for certified stroke, heart attack, and trauma care, we must be allowed to grow. As a nurse who knows what lies ahead if we don't, I ask that you please consider your family, friends, and neighbors. I dread the day that anybody comes through in this community comes through our ambulance bay doors and we simply don't have a care area to treat them in, especially if their life depends on it. Lives are truly at stake. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Dr. Rothchild, aren't the shelters open? Right? We are open. Oh, they're not ready. Okay, I thought they were ready because they said we didn't have enough to fill them yet. Okay. Oh, they meant the staff. Okay, thank you. Eric Riggleman.
Good evening, Council. My name is Eric Riggleman. I am the operations manager for radiology for Geisinger Community Medical Center. I stand before you tonight to talk about our desperate need to expand our services and our footprint in our hospital. It is alarming when you tour our radiology department, when I have vendors, other colleagues come through our department specifically. It is eye-opening to them how small our space is and how desperately we need to expand. It's great that we are getting a second MRI machine, as Megan and Nick said before, but after that we run out of space. Most concerning is our interventional radiology department, which is the only one in the city of Scranton that is fully functional. This services all our outpatients, inpatients, ED patients, and our trauma patients. So without the ability to expand this, it severely hinders our ability to service this community. Lastly, I would say I wish I could share with you all the text messages I get daily from friends, family, colleagues with a dire need to get their family members in for high imaging testing. And without having me as a resource, I don't know how the rest of the community does it. But I am fielding these daily, and again, without our ability to expand, I don't know how we continue to service this community. Thank you.
Thank you. Laura Agostini.
My name's Laura Agostini. I am a resident of the city of Scranton, as well as the president of the Green Ridge Neighborhood Association. On this zoning issue, we did this 2 years ago. Money and time was spent to develop the zoning ordinance that had been in the process for years. I believe I was before council regarding the zoning ordinance, and at that time, council agreed with the residents of the city of Scranton and the Hill section that rezoning that area from institutional with a 45-foot height limit to civic with a 100-foot height limit was not appropriate for that neighborhood. And I don't think anything has changed. As Mr. Schuster brought up, there is a process that Geisinger can go through to request a variance or a special exception to obtain the necessary permits and ability to expand. That was discussed 2 years ago when we did this 2 years ago. The amount of time that was spent on this zoning ordinance more than 3, 4, 5 years ago was tremendous. And I'm not even just talking about the volunteers and the neighborhood associations and all of the other people who are involved in the zoning ordinance. I'm talking about hard-earned money of this city that went into this zoning ordinance. I just don't want to see us go backwards. I understand the need for additional space for Geisinger. They want to expand and bring more treatment to the area, be able to help more people. That's wonderful. But there's a process for that. And we talked about that 2 years ago. Now we're revisiting this over again. So we're just going to do spot zoning now. I guess that's it. We're just going to, pick and choose the areas that we need to change the zoning when we already spent time and money evaluating all of the areas to zone the city appropriately. You want to prepare the sites of the area, but at what cost? Taking away the property values of those homes and residences that would be in front of this potentially 100-foot garage or 100-foot medical building blocking the view of the crown jewel of this city, Naog Park. I don't think that anybody in the park wants to look at a 100-foot building instead of the beautiful homes that are there. That's a big issue. Property values drive the tax revenue of this city. And if the property values in the Hill decline, so goes the revenue of this city. And we just came out of financial distress not too long ago. I don't think we want to see the property values and the tax revenue of this city decline, because I'm sure Geisinger isn't going to make that up. They're a nonprofit, so they don't pay property taxes. At least that's my understanding, and I could be wrong. They don't charge for parking. That's very nice, but that means that they also don't pay taxes on that garage. They're not going to pay taxes on the garage that they're going to put up. They're not going to pay taxes on the medical arts building or medical building that they're going to put up. But yet, they're going to impact the tax revenue of this city. I keep hearing that the sky is falling. We've been hearing that for a while, for many different reasons. I think that Geisinger is capable of proposing or putting forth some kind of plan to let the residents of the city and the residents of the Hill know exactly what they're proposing. This bit about, well, that would divert resources. Well, guess what? If you want something, you need to let everyone know what it is that you want so that we can make an informed decision about whether that's appropriate for that neighborhood. I just want to reinforce that we already went through zoning of this area, and it was pretty contentious, if I recall. There was a lot that went on, a lot of discussions, both here in council and at other meetings. I am not in favor of the spot zoning that is proposed.
Thank you. Please keep, would you, applause is not allowed according to the rules of City Council. So please don't applaud. Thank you. Doris Kozlowski?
Good evening, Council. Okay, well, my first thing was to remind everybody about the food drive at Naog Park on Saturday and Sunday from 9 to 3, and Mr. Smurl did that, so I don't have to elaborate. Okay, so we've been going around and around about this 100 feet again. Now, Mr. Coleman, I believe that was his last name, he came to a meeting of the Hill Neighborhood Association on Monday. Jessica Rothchild was there, so she can attest. And when it got contentious, and he said, oh, well, we're probably not going to go 100 feet. We're probably going to go 60 feet, maybe. So my thing is, then why do we have to amend it to 100 feet? Civic, I don't know how everything ended up, but originally Civic was just created for the hospital. There was no Civic. It was, the one that's slashed now with Civic. I'm sorry, it ran
Institutional.
Institutional, thank you, Mark McAndrew. Okay, so it was going to be institutional. That's what it was. Then they were going to change it to Civic. And I have the papers in my front seat of my car. Civic was 120 feet, not 100 feet. And at that time, institutional was 100. So I don't know at the time of passing if they lowered Civic to 120 feet, or if you grant them Civic, will it be 120 feet? And they'll say, oh, well, you know, the website in the city was just wrong. Somebody put it in wrong. Also, Civic at that time said you can put in a crematorium, you can put in a heliport. Now, somebody said to me, well, you have to go for special exemption for that. But you're opening the door to that. And if you could just override the zoning and come in and spot zone for the hill section, you could spot zone anywhere in the city, so no neighborhood is really safe on that. Now, I also want to make it very clear that none of the neighbors, none of the people that are opposing this are opposing the expansion of the hospital. We are not opposing the expansion of the hospital. We don't care. We want the hospital to expand. We just want the hospital to expand in a way that coexists with the neighborhood and doesn't ruin our quality of life, where we're not going to get sunshine or air. I don't see why they have to change it for 100 feet. And as far as a plan goes, if they're saying, well, they don't have a plan until they know how many feet they have, well, they could say what the plan is that they want to do. They don't even have to have all the beautiful pictures. They could just say, well, we want to do this building. We want to do this building. They have changed their minds so many times. When they bought the school, they came to us neighbors after and they said, oh, don't worry about that. We're never going to do anything. We'll never put parking over there. We're going to put a building maybe with underground parking. We just don't know for sure. Then it turned out they did have plans. And then they said, well, we weren't using those plans. Now, last time, in 2022-23, the plan came out with the pictures of the parking garages. 200-foot parking garages taking up the whole 200 block and the 400 block. So we need to know, every time they change a plan, a new CEO comes to us and he says, oh, well, I wasn't here when that happened. So I can't attest to that. You know, we weren't doing it then. It was a different person. And this has gone on 3 times. So, like I said, we're not against the expansion. Not at all. I'd love to see a pediatrics building over across the street from me. But I do not want a 100-foot building, and I don't think it has to be 100-foot with 2 full blocks. And I would like to know what it's going to be. And as far as the ongoing discussions, the first ongoing discussion was at last month and this month, and it really wasn't much of a discussion because it was always, well, we don't know what we're going to do. We don't know what we're going to do unless you let us have 100 feet. So, thank you.
Thank you. Glenn Digwood?
Good evening, Council. Excuse me. My name is Glenn Digwood. I'm a Geisinger physician who practices at Geisinger CMC every day. I come here on the top.
Can you move your mic up a little bit?
Sure can.
Thank you.
I come here obviously on the topic of zoning. I appreciate this forum and come to share my viewpoint as a clinician respectfully and describe some of what we see each and every day, much of which may be things you've heard already. I come here understanding first and foremost that your responsibility is to the Scranton residents. My hope is that at the same time you hold space in your mind to consider that your decisions directly impact countless lives outside of the city limits. The people we interface at Geisinger CMC every day, although the building itself remains in the city, are from far and wide. I don't have to clue you into the uncertainty which exists locally with respect to healthcare. And obviously that has impacted us with respect to volumes tremendously. Now, I commend the team at CMC, many of which are here, and innumerable people who are not here tonight for all of the efforts and innovation they've put forth to really scratch every nook and cranny out of Geisinger CMC to create better availability. But in the same token, I'm here, and what motivates me to speak tonight on this topic is really my own lived experience with CMC and the community at large. I was born at CMC. My family, I grew up locally. My family and friends all still live here. So this is an impactful personal issue to me and many of the clinicians and staff members at CMC that you would encounter if you showed up. So I think although I come here obviously as a Geisinger physician, my advocacy is really towards the issue around bed capacity. Someone else spoke to the fact that each day they receive texts or calls about a family member or friend in a crisis that needs to go to the emergency department or needs to be admitted to one of our critical care spaces. Rarely will you hear, certainly not from me, them worry about the care that they will receive at Geisinger CMC. The fear really comes into, do we have the capacity to accommodate that person in that time of need? I spoke about kind of finding every space possible for new expansion. Our lived experience is that when that occurs and when those beds open, those beds are filled in the same day. So our hope with expansion plans is really to try to future-proof that capacity constraint. And I know that's the hot topic, but that's our true motivation, is to future-proof, continuing to come back to the well to say, we built it and they came and now we need more. Lastly, so my hope is that you consider your outlook on this issue with openness and objectivity. I worry sometimes, and again, those in the audience may perceive obvious bias, that Geisinger sometimes can take on this moniker of a healthcare organization that is always increasing ever more expansion. I am Geisinger, right? So your friends and family probably are Geisinger, or your neighbors are Geisinger. We're a collection of humans taking care of other humans, serving the needs of our community and the wider swath of geographic areas that come to our hospital at the top of the hill each and every day. Again, I thank you for your time. I know this is a thorny issue. Our hope is to promote care far and wide, and we hope to do that in a way that's respectful to the community. Thank you.
Mr. Digwood. Mr. Digwood.
Yes.
Before you go, you brought up the topic of bed capacity. Do you know currently if Geisinger is presenting bed capacity? The last time that they were in, it was 3.8 new beds that were being presented with the parking garages in that area. So do we know that it's more than 3.8 new beds?
So I'm probably not, I'll be in full transparency, I'm probably not the person to
I
ask
would
that
imagine
question.
that you're
but
not.
that, I think
But
that's...
you had brought that up, so I figured I would ask.
We can follow up on that. Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
John Keever?
Good evening. My name is John Kevra, and I live at 423 Arthur Avenue, looking at Nahok Park. And I had a written statement prepared, but I'm going to deviate from it because as I listen to the prior speakers, 3 words come to mind. And I want you to try to remember these as you're making the decision. The first word is deflection. We aren't here to discuss quality medical care. If anyone in this room is against quality medical care, please raise your hand. No one is against improved medical care. We're here to talk about an agreement that was made regarding a parking garage 2 years ago, a good faith agreement. A good faith agreement on our part, but obviously not on the part of the hospital. The second word I want you to think about is growth. I find it ironic that the president of the Chamber of Commerce comes here and supports this. If I were president of the Chamber of Commerce, I would be promoting the opportunity to expand our downtown area. Not just healthcare, but if you were to put those medical facilities in some of the empty lots, the empty buildings, you would be promoting the use of the parking garages that currently exist, the cafes, the bars, the hotels. Everyone would benefit from moving some of these medical facilities to the areas that I walk by when I parked my car here. So again, I don't understand how the president of the Chamber of Commerce would be supporting this. The third word is compromise. That's what we're asking for. That's what was agreed upon. We did not say we do not want improved medical care. Any doctor, any person who comes up here is deflecting what the real issue is. The issue is we have a beautiful neighborhood. We all moved into that neighborhood knowing that it was not living in the country, it was not living in the outskirts, it's a busy area. But we also thought that we weren't going to be faced with a 120-foot parking garage or the opportunity to destroy the beautiful park, as someone said, the gem of the city. So we all have an obligation here to put our heads together and to compromise, and it could be done. It appears to me that the people who are representing Geisinger are very intelligent people, and I have a hard time believing they cannot come up with a better solution than what they're presenting right now. Finally, I want to say I'm a principal at an elementary school. We've spent the last 2 weeks talking about next year's budget. And some of that discussion was about $65 charges for musical instruments, $200 charges for computer programs, or $1,000 for books. I have a very hard time believing that a multi-million-dollar project does not have on the drawing board specifications for exactly what they have in mind. If public schools are faced with having to discuss $65 charges, I find it hard to believe that hospitals, on a whim, could put up a $300 million project and not have anything to show for it to each and every one of you. So again, what we're looking for is compromise. We're not looking for anything less, and we're looking for the compromise that was discussed at great expense of time and money and was agreed upon. I don't think it's too much to ask, is to please do what you said you agreed upon in the past. Thank you.
Thank you. Jess Dolan?
Good evening, Jess Nolan, 1720 Vine Street. I'm feeling a little confused and kind of sorry for the Geisinger folks because they've presented to you tonight acting as if they do not have permission to expand their healthcare facilities. When in fact, 2.5 years ago, this exact council voted 4-1 for a compromise solution that allows the hospital to expand. Right? Our back of the envelope calculation suggests that zoning just at the 45 feet, this isn't even with the variance, would give them about 275,000 square feet. That's a lot of square footage to work with. But rather than preparing plans to expand within the allotted zoning, Geisinger, as they did tonight, they picked up their ball and they threatened, they issued an ultimatum and said, if you don't give us exactly what we want, we're going to take our ball and we're going to go home. We're going to leave the city entirely. They can't expand under the current limits, or they choose not to. Perhaps if they prioritize providing the healthcare services that our community needs and skipped large lobbies and baby grand pianos, this time they could do more with the space that they've been given. I have 2 questions for council about the proposed ordinance. Why the rush to pass this ordinance, and why the red carpet? Regarding the latter, as Mr. Schuster has mentioned already, Geisinger does have recourse for building a structure that exceeds the specifications allowed by current zoning. They can apply for an area variance. That would allow them to propose changes to physical restrictions and would require them, quite reasonably, to conduct a survey of the land, to bring specific plans to the zoning board. Neighbors would then have the ability to comment on those plans and not the concepts of a plan that we've seen previously. It would force them to do their homework and come prepared to negotiate the terms of their desired expansion, and would give the neighborhood equal footing during that process. Last night, many in attendance here were at the H&A meeting, and when asked why they hadn't prepared plans for the expansion, the representative said, it costs too much money, you heard that again tonight, to show plans that might not be approved. But the rumor on the street is that they do have plans, and some of you sitting up on the dais tonight have seen them. They're just choosing not to share them with the neighborhood. Why the lack of transparency? Geisinger has promised on multiple occasions that they want to be a good neighbor, they want to work with the neighborhood. Is this what it means to be a good neighbor? Withholding information from the affected community? I think most people watching can understand why it would be difficult for us to trust an entity who at every opportunity has shown us that they are not trustworthy. I've got a lot of additional examples I'm happy to share with anybody who's interested. I would also like to point out that the current approach to the zoning change, Geisinger does not have to lift a finger. Instead, the mayor initiated the request for a zoning change. Thanks to Mr. McAndrew, there is now a requirement that they have to make a formal presentation to council before a vote can take place. Why is the city rolling out the red carpet for Geisinger while Commonwealth Health is left on life support? This leads me to my other question. Why the rush? Members of council have shared that they are concerned about the state of healthcare in Scranton. They worry that the tenor deal will not go through. Have you considered that this zoning change might actually make it harder for tenor to get financing to acquire Commonwealth Health? Why not wait and see what happens with the tenor deal rather than preemptively changing zoning reached through the results of a year-long democratic process? In closing, I'm going to say behavior is a language. Geisinger is showing us through their behavior that they have no interest in working with the neighborhood. And I've said this in council before, past behavior is the best predictor of future behavior. If they have not included us in the past 3 years, why would we expect them to include us going forward? Changing the zoning to civic gives them carte blanche to do whatever they want with only a pinky promise from an untrustworthy entity that they won't build a 100-foot garage, and we're supposed to feel reassured by that. The only way the hospital is going to work with the neighborhood in good faith is if they are required by the process to do so. Forcing the hospital to apply for a variance would give the neighborhood a chance to weigh in on the process. I ask you to vote against this amendment and to have them use the democratic process to apply for the changes that they seek. Thank you.
Hi, I'm here tonight, first of all, Jogi Hooley, Scranton, Pennsylvania. I'm here tonight, contrary to a lot of the people in the audience, in support of what Geisinger wants to do. Over the past 18 months, I had 6 experiences with health care. 3 of them were at Geisinger. Quite disturbing. The emergency rooms were absolutely full to capacity. I took a friend of mine who's 90 years old, in great health. We sat for 4.5 hours. They took her in for a CAT scan, brought her back out for 2 more hours, and then she was taken back. And she was put in an emergency room, small area, and they prepared her for surgery. In the meantime, they moved someone out of that room. The hallway was full of patients. It was one of the most disturbing things I ever went through. On January 4th of this year, I have a health issue. I went to Geisinger. It was packed. The emergency room was packed. I walked out, went to Lehigh Valley, not knowing the extent of the services that they don't offer. And they said, you have a serious condition. We'll get you an ambulance. You can go to Lehigh Valley and Allentown or Wayne Memorial. And they said, we can get you an ambulance in about 2 hours. I said, I'll drive to Wayne Memorial. So I signed myself out and I drove to Wayne Memorial, where I had just a couple days stay. Recently, and this is what's really bothering me, my daughter had twins 2 months ago. Right after one of the twins was born, the baby was moved to the NICU unit for a very short period of time. All of my children, my 2 children and my 4 grandchildren, were born up at Moses Taylor. They're going to close. They can talk about Tinner all they want. Where's Tinner going to get the money? It's a rural hospital. What private equity firm is going to give them the money? We're not assured of anything. The only thing we're assured of is that Geisinger right now is willing to make the investment to bring NICU unit in, more beds, pediatric, more beds, because there is no question in my mind. The only 2 things that are operational up in Moses Taylor are, I believe, the NICU unit and the birthing unit. Extremely disturbing. Extremely disturbing. This isn't about housing values. It's not about, union jobs or economic development. It's about lives. It's about our children. All I really care about right now is my grandchildren and that they have a place to go. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's all for our sign-in sheet. Anyone else wish to address council?
Good evening, Virgil Argenta. This council has often been criticized for approving projects hastily, frequently receiving last-minute information from the administration. Typically, you get these updates right before meetings, and it seems decisions are made without fully reviewing or questioning them. True leadership means standing up, taking charge, something I have not witnessed yet. Hopefully, as Mr. McAndrew mentioned last week, things will change come January, although I'm not holding my breath. Last year, the city took legal action to address restrictions on the Rubin property. In 1943, Mary Rubin had given land to the city of Scranton with deed restrictions that required it to be used for a playground in the Sandy Bank neighborhood. However, for nearly 80 years, the city left the land a vacant tract between Mineral Avenue and an active rail line along the east side of the Lackawanna River, unused. Recently, the city went to court, received permission to lift the deed restriction so a salt shed could be built on that site. The property is designated as light industrial, which allows for the operation of the salt shed at this location. Following judicial approval to remove the deed restriction, the city proceeded with the construction of the new salt shed earlier this year. However, that's what raises the question, whether the city sought planning and zoning approval for the project or just went ahead and did it on their own. In Scranton, under the Home Rule Charter, The municipal government is required to comply with both state laws and local ordinances, including regulations related to zoning and planning. Was this site granted zoning approval? If so, why isn't the lot paved? Why is it a mud pit? What about the lighting? Why isn't there adequate lighting? Was the fence, the entrance gate over the stormwater grates, was that approved? With heavy traffic and wet weather, that area becomes a mud pit. Who's responsible for cleaning the neighborhood street that's constantly covered in mud from these heavy-duty trucks? I regularly attend zoning meetings. Everyone else is required to pave gravel or dirt lots and install lights to prevent mud issues, and safety issues. It's not fair that these neighbors in the Sandy Bank area will now have to deal with mud all over the road leading into this new area. My second concern, whether this situation constitutes conformity. If there has been a change in land use, it would typically require approval from the zoning board, which would also prohibit an opportunity for neighbors to express their views, unless eminent domain was invoked, which I'm confident that wasn't the case here. To be clear, I'm asking if such actions are permitted within the neighborhood setting. If so, who authorized these changes? Was it ever presented to the zoning board before construction began? It appears the use of the land was altered without proper review. There seems to be an inconsistency, as this administration often denies requests from residents who wish to build garages or sheds on empty lots, even when a house previously stood on that particular property. In most cases, the zoning board does not grant approval for such projects. So I'm trying to understand why this particular situation was considered acceptable. It was highly disrespectful to Ms. Rubin's wishes and the property she deeded to the city for a single purpose, a park. Regardless of how many parks the city of Scranton has, preserving green space would be an improvement over what exists there now in that little neighborhood. And just so you know, the bridge was hit again 5 more times this week. Now the trucks are coming from north, heading south, up. Google has given us attention now. The name of the bridge is Penny the Truck-Eating Bridge. In regards to Geisinger, I'm a triple open heart survivor. My cardiologists are at Geisinger, and I think we need to do whatever we can to compromise so that we can work this out, because I wouldn't be here tonight if it wasn't for Geisinger and the doctors at Geisinger. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Tom Coyne, Manuka. First, I want to address the rules of council. You don't seem to understand that there are laws that supersede council rules, those pesky ones that you took an oath to protect. But I want to address one. Everyone who steps up to this podium is redressing the government. Each of you sitting there are an individual member of the government, and as such, we have a right to redress each individual member of the government without interference. There are exceptions, such as threats, fighting words, and threats must be the extent that you believe will introduce imminent harm, inciting riots as an example. Moving on. Council is supposed to create rules and ordinances. So I asked Dr. Rothchild, why not introduce legislation to set Scranton's code blue to 32 degrees with wind chill? You're on the unsheltered task force, but more important, you're the lead committee member for council on the subject, and the legislative nature of this is specifically in your hands. Are you going to propose a change in the ordinance or provide lip service and pass the buck? You can and do have the elected official right to act and make those changes if you choose to do so. Okay, off to the rezoning. We had a young man here appear who appealed to keep 15 hens. I see the issue as they built the coop, and more of the issue, they acquired 13 excessive hens. And being in violation, they asked for an exception that should have been done prior. The child had an impassioned plea for council to aid him, but it was a zoning issue and it was brushed off because it was the scope of the zoning board. I understand the parents did it backwards in getting the hens first, causing the issue, and then asking to be allowed for variance after the violation. But I also balance mercy and justice. Now, getting back on the understandable parallel track, tonight we have a zoning change for the hospital lands. We have a process, and 2 years ago the zoning was changed, and we had a huge fight about civic and 100-foot garages and the structure and the impact on residential areas. The zoning was changed, and all the areas were set. Now we have a bill before the body that seeks to selectively invalidate both the process and the authority of both the Planning Commission and Zoning Board, and have City Council usurp the authority of both and set a precedent that anyone can now avoid the Planning Commission and Zoning Board and request changes without public input, and going forward will allow anyone to sidestep a lawful process by getting it put before council in a selective nature, not available to all and quite likely unlawful. You are planning to make this body a body to supersede or sidestep the Planning Commission, Zoning Board, state laws, and remove public comment periods under those specific bodies. These are serious questions that I would consider beforehand, because you're also opening up the door for anyone here to sidestep and come into council and ask for changes, because if it's good for one, for spot zoning, it's good for all, and you're setting the precedent now. Moving on now to food. I know that there are a lot of people talking about sending money, the $25,000 to get a food coordinator. That's all well and good. But personally, I prefer direct food donations. Why is that? Because when I was a child, going back when I was 5 years old, I had leg-calf-Perthes disease, where I could not walk. I had to be in a wheelchair or on crutches for 2 years. At the beginning of this, when my parents were dragging me from New York, New Jersey, and here because no one had the expertise or knew what that was, my parents asked the United Way for one simple help. Thanks to you, it works for all of us, except we asked for help in a wheelchair, and we were denied a children's wheelchair. My parents never told me that until I was much older, and I donated in school all the time. The problem is when you donate cash to these organizations, usually 85% thereabout go to the CEOs and the staff for running these organizations, and they do not actually go to the food and the people they're supporting. So again, I ask people in the city, stop in here, drop off food for the poor, make it a place for the season that we can actually help people in need in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hello, Scranton. Rick Little. I'd like to give some applause to some of the things I saw before on my own time. I was walking in the building tonight, and it just floored me. I see this thing, Tenants' Bill of Rights. It's there. It's undated. Maybe it's old or something. But, you know, because I was a tenant at Scranton Housing Authority for 14 and a half years, and I did everything that they said on here, you know. You know, including going to this city, code enforcement, going to the police because they were stealing my stuff. And then the police come and they say, see the manager, and receiving notices before they burst in your apartment. I rarely received any sort of notices, and I'm still fighting for that, because there's a lot of, I just saw so much in the 14 and a half years I lived there, watching so many people being evicted, and then they're homeless. Now, to talk about the homeless problem, yeah, there's a homeless problem. And as I've said here before, if there's a homeless problem, you really should be able to go to the agency that has the word homeless in it, or housing in it, or something like that. And in this city, it's Scranton Housing Authority. And it's been going on a long time. Scranton Housing Authority is for the homeless. The building I was evicted from was for the elderly and disabled. But it has become a political place where some politician can give a perk to somebody and, hey, you get a free apartment, and people like me and thousands of others go out, because these people are the district attorneys, the magistrates, the judges, and these people can control the mayors and the commissioners and stuff to get them to get the police to write on their incident reports, see the manager. Now, they have a good manager over there now, I think. I met with her. It was told to me, they took away all my stuff when I was evicted. In fact, the judge announced a month before my trial, which was a bogus trial. I said I wasn't ready for it. I challenged the no pay and stay written on the magistrate's orders. I challenged, I had my own docket number for all the atrocities they did against me, and then Judge Moyle puts them together right before Christmas, where I'd have to make a motion, and then I had my trial, and the only thing I could do is remove it to federal court, and they had absolutely no jurisdiction when they evicted me onto the street, taking all my possessions, because I couldn't get them out of there. I had no place to put them. I lived totally on Social Security. And there's just no heart in this whole thing, and there's no reason for it. You know, with only 26 beds, 6 for women, 20 for men, on Olive Street, done through the Catholic services. That's what Scranton Housing Authority was supposed to be back in the day. It was set up by great mayors in the past, but it has been taken over as some sort of a political voting farm. And I see elections connected with all these boards. They're connected to election, the election board, you know. They appoint the people, the judges and the inspectors in Pennsylvania, as I talked about last week, which is an anomaly only in Pennsylvania, that every single ward has a judge of elections and inspector of elections. And then where they have the elections, it's usually at the schools or at the public housing.
Thank you.
Oh, am I done?
You're done.
Wow. Okay.
God bless.
Hello, Barbara O'Malley, Scranton, and I truly wasn't planning on speaking tonight, but something came to my attention that I think needs to be brought to the public. We, as neighbors, have begged Geisinger for plans. Last night at our Hill neighborhood meeting, we asked for plans. We were told they would be too expensive. We even had a sidebar that we weren't looking for architectural design. We just wanted a sense of where are you putting it, about how high, what's going to go here. We don't have plans. We don't have plans. Right now, on the Scranton Times website is an article about Geisinger's plan to build a garage on the Audubon site, and then some other things. You wonder why we don't trust them? You wonder why we're upset? You wonder why we feel like you're selling us out? Because did you have these plans? Did you know about it? Did the mayor know about it? The citizens of this city, the residents of that neighborhood, had a right to know those plans as well. We were at a meeting just last night, and told there were no plans. I expect more of them, and I expect more of you, and I expected more of the mayor. I am really, really very upset with the way we were treated. We're the citizens and taxpayers of this city. I don't know where everybody else lives, but I live in the hill section, and these are my neighbors, and we don't deserve to be treated like that by anybody. And I hope, as representatives of us, that you're going to take this up with Geisinger, and you're not going to vote to just give them what they want, the 100 plans, because they deceived us. They weren't upfront with us at all. Let them go for a variance. Let them get the extra 10, 15, whatever feet they are. But they have lied. They have withheld information. And I expect you, as our representatives, to take them to task for it. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Good evening, Council. My name is John Judge. I'm the Fire Chief and Emergency Management Coordinator for the City of Scranton. The reason I'm coming tonight is I have a regret from not coming here a couple years ago when this was first brought before Council, of not speaking what I know about the healthcare system and the state of the healthcare system and the EMS delivery system and how that all ties into community health. So I felt the need to come tonight. I've started in the emergency services in this county in 1989. I was an EMT in 1990 and have been running calls for the city of Scranton for 24 years, but before that was a volunteer outside the city. And I could tell you when I first started, there were multiple hospitals in this region, Geisinger, CMC at the time, Regional, Moses Taylor, the Mid-Valley, Tyler Memorial, Carbondale General. There were several hospitals. And what I've seen in my tenure as the fire chief, and even before that, is the impact of hospital closures in our area and what that's done to the healthcare system and the wait times and the EMS delivery times here in the city of Scranton. And it's not just a city of Scranton issue. I've talked to the fire chiefs across the Commonwealth, and it becomes a tale of two different cities, right? So in Pittsburgh, where the healthcare provider, the main healthcare provider out there, has invested $2 billion in an 18-story building in the Oakland Hills neighborhood of the city of Pittsburgh to be able to make sure that community health is prioritized. And then you look to the south of us, down in the Philadelphia area, where we end up seeing the Crozier Health System close, and you see response times for EMS, you see healthcare times all start to change. And I think what we have to be very cognizant of here is no matter where Geisinger builds, the patients are going to come, right? It doesn't matter where they put that facility. But having that facility right here in the city of Scranton gives us, as their hub, in that hub and spoke system, which is common in the healthcare systems now, gives us the ability to have that right here in our city that directly impacts the health and mortality rates of our citizens and in the region as well. So I hope that we take a good look at this and make a well-informed decision to make sure that we are working with Geisinger or whatever health system as a good partner to make sure that we have a good and fair and adequate healthcare delivery system here that can actually serve the needs of the citizen. My fear here is with the very fragile state of the healthcare system with our two hospitals under Commonwealth Health. I don't want to turn into the southeast region down near Crozier and Chester area, where now we're trying to figure out where all of those patients are going to end up going. So I implore you to make a well-informed decision that protects the vulnerable people in our population and make sure that we have a good healthcare delivery system that serves the citizens of Scranton. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Judge. Anyone else?
How you doing? My name is Ryan Barrett. I'm a resident of Scranton. I just want to address the fact that Geisinger is a business. It's a healthcare business, but first and foremost, it's a business. And the only thing that they care about is dollars and cents. And I know the good people here and the people that work on the floor, I commend them, because they work for a company that most likely doesn't care about them. The healthcare industry is one of the most volatile, fragile industries. They will cut and run as soon as they can. In other areas, Hahnemann Hospital in Philadelphia, one of the oldest hospitals in this country, it's no longer. They weren't bought, they weren't sold. The corporate partners decided it wasn't making money, and they cut and they run, and they will lay off Geisinger employees as fast as they can. So this isn't about health care. This is about a corporate entity trying to get real estate, trying to diversify their assets. So don't sell out the good people of this city, because Geisinger could care less about them. This is about the residents of this city. And you're sacrificing people that invest in their time, money, and lives in this city for the corporate interests of a company that could care less about it. So I'm asking you to vote no or vote against this ordinance that has already been decided. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Fifth order, 5A motions.
Mr. King, do you have any motions or comments?
Nothing at this time.
Thank you, Mr. King. Mr. Schuster, do you have any motions or comments?
The only thing I have from last week that I'm going to mention is Mr. Voldenberg. There was an address at 915 Euclid Avenue. I did get a lot of my questions answered, but that was one that we didn't get anything back on. Did we hear anything about that address?
No, the citation was issued, approximately $200 fine, and they're following up on it.
Okay, thank you very much. The only other thing I'm going to say tonight is that last week I did ask a question. I asked if Geisinger had established and will continue a neighborhood advisory board, as they originally stated and they discussed in 2022, 2023 with that zoning change. It was a board that was to address the neighbors' concerns in addition to conducting those noise, light, shade, traffic studies in that area. And I mean, this is an answer that I get back from the administration, but the answer was that Geisinger is in close communication with the Hill Neighborhood Association and has been committed to engaging the community throughout any future development. So I just wanted to make that stated tonight. It doesn't seem to be my opinion on what's happening here, but that was the answer I got from the administration, and that's all.
Thank you, Mr. Schuster. Dr. Rothchild, do you have any motions or comments?
Yes, just a few. I forgot during announcements, I wanted to mention the recycling event that had taken place this past weekend, and someone did bring it up during public comment. I've been going through some of my things and was able to take advantage of the recycling myself, and I was also hearing from other residents who had that what a well-run event it was. I was expecting, I know like recycling events, even with the county in the past, could really attract a large number of people and, get a lot of traffic, and didn't run into that issue that day. I felt like it was organized, and I appreciate the city doing that, and I believe their goal is to continue to add recycling events or to have other options for electronic recycling that's more consistent. And I wanted to make mention of an email I'd received just this evening. Someone wanted us to announce that there's possibly a fake ADT salesman going door to door in Trips Park today. They had some Ring camera photos of the person. They said 2 males and a female driving around Trips Park in a dark blue Camry, claiming that if you put an ADT sign in your yard, they will give you a free camera installation and monitoring. So not sure to the merit of it, if it's a scam or not, but perhaps we can alert the SPD and have them look into it, Mr. Voldenberg.
I will, Dr. Rothchild.
Okay, thank you. And lastly, I just wanted to once again respond to some questions and concerns about the Code Blue shelter. So I believe, as I had mentioned last week too, that currently they are in the hiring process. They have the MOU now with Catholic Social Services, who will be taking over in terms of the staffing. So even though we provide the location and we have our Parks and Rec staff open up the facility for its use, we do need trained staff members to staff the Code Blue shelters. And so they're in the process of that now, and hopefully they'll have people quickly hired and trained who can take that on. I will inquire about an estimate as to when that will be completed. I know someone made mention of 6 weeks. I hope it's not that long, because I'm sure there's cold weather that meets the criteria in between that time. And then in terms of the temperature change, I believe those discussions are still ongoing. We did receive some information from our attorney, who was looking into the matter at the request of Councilman McAndrew, and seeing what our options are there. But of course, there will also be the cost considerations for the increase in number of nights that shelter would be open if the temperature was changed. So I did ask earlier in our caucus, our budget session, for some estimates on that. I know there are already increases in the overtime because of how much our Parks and Rec department was over for this past year. So I do want more specifics on if there's more money that we would need to allot to that overtime budget for 2026 with a potential change. And I know it was also mentioned that we have the power as a legislative body to create that change, but then we do also need it to get enforced by the city. So we need to work in cooperation with the city for when those Code Blues are to open. So even if we say we want it opened whenever it's below 32 degrees, doesn't mean they necessarily will. So I want to ensure that if we were to pass such legislation, that we would be enforcing the policy. And I think that's all that I have with regards to the Code Blue. So we'll continue to discuss it with our solicitor and with the appropriate departments on the city side. Oh, there was an additional thing in terms of the county setting up when the Code Blue shelters are announcing when there is a formal Code Blue. I would I'll make a motion for council to send a letter to the county requesting a change in the temperature. If I have a second to that motion.
I'll second it for you, but I think I stated last week as we don't need to have the county make a decision on our behalf. We have the power to create an ordinance. We're talking about ordinance here all night that we can set the temperature. It's going to require some extra funding. I get it. We sat and listened to the budgetary process revolved around that, but I don't think we can make a motion to have the county change. I don't know, the solicitor, you can chime in here.
It would be a letter request.
So there was a motion and a second, right, on the question?
I'll second it, but
Okay.
There was
So now that it's been motioned, it's been seconded, now it's on the question. I think that we have our solicitor looking into that for us.
Yeah.
I do think it's a little premature for us to go, because if he finds out, I mean, it appears as though, as Mr. McAndrew pointed out, we can create our own resolution and not have to worry about going through the county. So I think it's a little premature to try to, go to the county. I think we should ask our solicitor to continue to do his research on that for us, and then come back to us and make a recommendation as to what type of resolution we want to pass, our own resolution, and not have to rely on the county. Those are my thoughts.
From the research that I think you already provided, much of that were county policies of the temperatures that were set, and from the information that I've received and from speaking with Chief Judge, typically it's followed by the county. So I'm not saying that we need their permission or that it can't be different, but I think it would be good if we're able to have it on par with them. And then our shelter is not only going to be serving, unsheltered people within Scranton, they could be from other parts of the county too, which is why I believe it's a county-wide policy.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second on sending a letter to the Lackawanna County and ask them to change the temperature on their code blue, correct?
Yes.
I think we asked them to maybe explore and consider. We can't tell them to change it.
I said a request.
Just the wording.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to make the specific letter. So we have a motion and a second. Anyone else?
So on the question, this is a motion to send a letter to start a discussion with Lackawanna County, or are we making a motion to actually change to, what is the actual motion to do? I mean, I don't mind, I agree with Mr. King and Mr. McAndrew, this body could do what it likes, we don't need any kind of permission from the county, but I don't mind working with some of our governmental partners. So is it's a motion to send a letter to open up discussion, or is it to actually?
It's a motion for a letter to consider a change in the temperature to increase the temperature to open code blue shelters within the county.
On the question, so in the letter, are we going to suggest a temperature, or are we going to suggest that a committee be formed, or that there's conversations to determine a more appropriate code blue temperature? I think it's currently at 32, if I'm correct.
No, it's at 20 degrees.
Oh, excuse me, it's at 20. It's
Some
at
of the
20.
research that was sent over to us at 32 degrees in other counties. So, I mean, we could choose to use that as a basis. We could have more discussion on it and what would go into the letter as well, have a letter drafted and then discuss it.
Well, on the
outside
question,
meeting.
I don't have a problem with doing that, but I also believe we should still continue to pursue, coming up with our own code blue.
On the question, and no disrespect, Mr. King, but you know how committees happen around here. The winter will be over. So, like I said, I'll entertain you. We can throw it out there if they want to be a partner, but at the end of the day, I'm cool with 32. That's why I brought it up last week. I'm looking towards 32 degrees. I think that's the temperature that, and not no pun intended, that it's bearable, or we can bear as a city, or maybe if they want to entertain that, fine. If not, we still, like I said earlier, have the ability to do it ourselves. As long as we can fund it or find some funding. I know it's going to require more money, but we shouldn't place, a cost on people in need, especially when it's regard to, below, freezing temperatures. So.
Okay, so then the vote will be on to send a letter requesting Lackawanna County to consider looking at the temperature, to raise the temperature of the code blue.
Yes.
We're good with that. Okay, so then we're going on the question. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved. You'll send a letter.
We'll send the letter tomorrow.
Thank you.
I'll send it on the advice of Mr. Gilbride.
Okay, thank you.
That's all that I have for my motions or comments.
Thank you, Dr. Rothchild. Mr. McAndrew, any motions or comments?
Yeah, a lot to unpack here tonight. So, Mr. Coleman, thank you for coming. I mean, I made a motion actually last week, and the motion was to come into caucus, and I appreciate that you scheduled some time to do so. And I appreciate also that you came and spoke tonight. So, you speaking tonight brought up more talking points for me, okay? So, you weren't here last week, but I was here 2 years ago, too. So I'm a procedural process guy. That's why we have a zoning board. That's why we have council. There's procedures, there's processes. Sometimes we don't like them, but we have to follow them. That's good government, okay? And the mayor proposed a proposal, an amendment to us. But we can thank her for the proposal, but this body is the one that amends zoning. This body is the one who appoints the zoning board, okay? So, like I said, I can appreciate a recommendation or a proposal from the mayor and her legal department, but the timing of it, I still have a problem with. Because 4 of us 2 years ago voted no. And and it was through great discussion, and we heard everybody. We weighed in, we had everybody weigh in. And, like I said, I'm a man of compromise. I said that 2 years ago. But this legislation that was brought to us extremely late, which is very concerning to me, because once again, like last time, it's become a political football, which I hate and detest. Healthcare is a serious issue around here. It shouldn't be a political football. It shouldn't be perceived as us against them. I'm neither us or them. I sit here in my role as a representative of the city and everybody in it, and what's in the best interest, the health, safety, and welfare of everybody. My committee is public safety, all right? And, like I said last week, I don't want this spun on me as I'm against quality health care. I'm against growth. It seems that you've mentioned this evening and in a couple of emails that some of this growth has taken place already, even though you didn't get the 100 feet. Some of these things you're mentioning is already in process. And I'm glad to hear that, all right? In the past month, I had 2 visits to your cath lab. Well, I wasn't invited to it, I had to go, right? And I sat on a gurney in the hallway of the ER for hours. I mean hours. I know it seemed like hours, but it was really hours. So, I get it. You need to expand. You need to do a lot of things to increase quality. And also, I stated last week, neonatal, that's what I call it when my kids are little, NICU, whatever you want to call it. I had 2 daughters flown from that roof, one to Hershey and one to Danville. Did I appreciate that the services were there for my beautiful daughters? Yeah. Do I believe and think we need a pediatric unit? Yeah. I don't think anybody in this room the past 2 weeks or the past 2 years is against the advancement of healthcare in our community. No one, I believe it. And we're out and about. People, you don't believe the amount of people that come up to us with everything, from potholes to Geisinger. All right? So we live it. And I know that the elephant in the room was finally addressed. You actually someone actually mentioned the height, the potential height of the garage. Because that's what all this comes down to, is the garage. And Mr. Coleman, you stated that, of course, it was set at 45 2 years ago. And you're like, well, you probably don't want to get to 100, okay? And I believe, like I said, I can't speak on behalf of all the residents, but I'm trying to put a compromise in place. You're asking 5 of us to commit to you and the mayor's plan. Can't we ask, you're asking me to commit to your future and your strategies of growth, which I think are already in process. So it's not like, and I felt the same way as you, Jess, the old, I'm going to take my ball and go home. I take offense to that, because that's not what any of us are about here. I truly believe that. But you alluded, for at least the first time I heard the elephant in the room about height, okay? So, like I said, I can't speak on behalf of these great citizens and that have to live it. I live in West Side, but I can sympathize, of course. But I think you need to commit to us. And that process, in the past 2 years, there was no plan A or B, not a peep to us from Geisinger. And I'm a teacher, and an old teacher told me once ago, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Right, so I can't believe that there wasn't a plan A, B, or C. And I know you weren't here. I don't know how long you're here, but the interim between the last vote and this vote. But I can't believe that there wasn't a plan B or C, because there must have been, because the growth is still happening between 2 years ago and now. We've seen you move to Mount Olive. We've seen you have the cancer. So you guys didn't pack up your ball. You threatened last time to do it. You weren't here. But it was a threat to us. We're just going to leave. And you didn't. And we're glad you didn't. But at the end of the day, like, we need a compromise. And I'll just give you an example. And I know the garage is the white elephant. I'm glad it was brought up. But I think, like I said earlier, I think 60 might be the number for everybody. Right? Compromise, it always happens. I know it's not 100. I mean, that's not for me to decide, but I'll entertain a compromise. When I first got married, I made wedding cakes on the side, okay? And there was no internet. There was a couple wedding books, but brides-to-be would come to me and say, well, I want a 5-tier cake. And I'm like, well, you got to support that cake. Well, here I drew one. And I'm like, well, a 5-tier cake is kind of big. You have to support it with wooden dowel rods. It's not too aesthetically pleasing. If you put it in the middle of the room, you're going to impede the sight of your guest. But I can tell you, if we go 3 tiers and maybe have a little bridge on each side and have 2 more tiers, you get the same number of pieces of cake for your guest. Can't we get the same parking spots? Just rethinking it? I mean, does it have to be 100 feet? I know you're not admitting to it, but please, you know, thank God this is going to be tabled tonight for the hearing, okay? And so you want a commitment from me. I in turn want a commitment from Geisinger. You know, just put something in writing. We had to put, this is all put in writing. This is all in writing. The resolution's in writing, the ordinance is writing. I still prefer you go back and follow the policy and procedure that we have to follow. And I just think, you know, and I'm not picking on you. Like I said, I want you to succeed. But I just think that we need a compromise. And between last week and this week, it doesn't look like it's happening. But now that it's going to be tabled in a public hearing, I hope between now and then there is a compromise for everybody. So we can put this to bed and be done with it. So the next, I want to address Mrs. Hodawan. Did she leave? Where is she? She's gone? All right, she has a couple questions about, you know, in our budget, seeing Social Security deductions for the police department. And, you know, some of us know, some of us don't, that, you know, they don't pay into Social Security, but it is a line item because within that personnel, there's non-uniform public safety personnel that have to pay into Medicare and 6.2% deduction for Social Security. So I hope that answers her question if she sees this. If not, she'll be here next week. I'll tell her. And that is all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McAndrew. I just want to address one thing that was brought up by many people that were here this evening. It was brought up, spot zoning was brought up many times. So I'm not taking anybody's side, but if I was GCMC and I was asked to bring a plan in and show you something that would be probably in excess of $1 million to design one building. That's a lot of money to put into one building. Back again to spot zoning. This is our, and you can look this up, this is our zoning map. See all the blue? That's civic. And you know what that's from? That's Commonwealth. That's what we gave them. Every square inch of the hospitals they had, and the empty blocks in between with nothing on them. You see this? That's what I call spot zoning, and it's illegal. I'm not saying we spot zoned it, but look at what we have. That's GCMC. See all different colors? I understand why they don't want to spend $1 million on plans. That's spot zoning. We gave them the one spot that their hospital is and made that civic. Everything else we have rules for. I'd be afraid to go to zoning and ask for just one area. So there has to be a compromise. But we also have to know how high you're looking. What are you looking to put in there? That's all people really want to know. If you say, look, we're at 65 feet, I went up, I looked at, and you said you want to go across the street, so if you want to put a bridge across Mulberry Street, we're already 18, 20 feet high because you have to drive in underneath where the ER is now. You drive under there. You're already 20 feet off the ground. So the building on the left side, even if you do put one over there and you want to join it, it's impossible to be 40 feet high. You're 65 feet. And there's no other way around that, because you have to meet that. Otherwise, it's going to look like a ramp, and you really don't want a ramp. But I do understand where you're coming off and saying you want us to give you a drawing of something that will cost us $1 million to have done, because that's what it costs to draw a building today. So they want us to do that, but look what they did last time. They said no, they spot zoned the 2 areas we wanted to build on. So that's just my take on it, and I guess we will, once we table this, we will get a lot more information on it, and hopefully we can get together and discuss this and come up with a good plan for everybody, not just the hospital. And I know that's a ton of money to put in. I don't care how wealthy you are. Nobody wants to spend $1 million on a plan that, because a city council decides, well, we don't really like that, throw $1 million in a garbage can. Nobody wants to do that. And it's just not right to expect somebody to do that. So that is all I have, Mr. Voldenberg.
5B for introduction, an ordinance amending the investment policy for the city of Scranton.
At this time, I entertain a motion that item 5B be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question, all those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5C for introduction, a resolution, reappointment of William Laser as a member of the Scranton-Lackawanna Health and Welfare Authority for a term to expire December 31st, 2030.
At this time, I entertain a motion that item 5C be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question, all those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, so moved. Please. Excuse me. Can you take the conversation outside, please?
D for introduction, a resolution, reappointment of William Laser as a member of the Tax Collection Committee for a term to expire December 31st, 2026.
This time I entertain a motion that item 5C be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question, all those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it, and so moved.
5E for introduction, a resolution, reappointment of Sherry Frabel as a member of the Lackawanna County Land Bank Board for a term to expire December 31st, 2030.
This time I entertain a motion that item 5E be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question, all those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it, and so moved.
5F for introduction, a resolution, reappointment of Marion Gatto as a member of the Lackawanna County Land Bank Board for a term to expire December 31st, 2030.
This time I entertain a motion that item 5F be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved. So moved.
Second.
On the question, all those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it, and so moved.
5G for introduction, a resolution, appointment of Dwayne Heisler as a member of the Scranton Municipal Recreation Authority to replace Norma Jeffries for a term to expire on January 3rd, 2027.
At this time, I entertain a motion that item 5G be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question, all those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it, and so moved.
5H for introduction, a resolution, reappointment of Melinda Crocus as an alternate member of the Environmental Advisory Council for a 3-year term effective June 1st, 2025, and expiring May 31st, 2028.
At this time, I entertain a motion that item 5H be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question, all those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, so moved.
5I for introduction, a resolution, reappointment of Joseph J. Murphy as a member of the City Planning Commission for a term to expire December 31st, 2029.
At this time, I entertain a motion that item 5I be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question, all those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5J for introduction, a resolution, appointment of Anna Campbell as a member of the Board of Commissioners of the Scranton Housing Authority, replacing Devin Drabhai Dave, whose term expired October 5th, 2023. Anna Campbell's 5-year term will begin immediately and expire on September 27th, 2028.
At this time, I entertain a motion that item 5J be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question?
On the question, so this year it's taken 2 years to bring this back up, and in 2024, this body did decline Ms. Campbell. I'd like to not introduce this, and I'd like to have our solicitor take a look into the time here, because at this point in time, it's been past 30 days, and maybe it's a possibility that this body can replace this position.
On the question, okay, come on, it's 2 years. And this is the same legislation sent to us. This is another procedural process thing that drives me crazy. This actual appointment, the same wording is 2 years old. If you're gonna try to reappoint somebody, send me something new and clean, okay? Secondly, we have an administrative code that we have to follow, and the mayor shall submit resolution to council within 30 days of the expiration of the individual's term on a board or authority. 30 days, not 2 years. So guess what? If it doesn't happen, if the mayor does not appoint within 30 days, council appoints. So this is, I can't even entertain voting on this because it's just 2 years old. It's the wrong legislation. We're not following the code. So I agree with Mr. Schuster. Let's send this back until they clean it up.
So did you make a motion not to?
Not to introduce.
Okay, Attorney Gilbride. So after reading,
Well, first of all, you have a motion and a second on the initial motion. So that has to be disposed with first.
so we have to vote on this first.
Vote on the original resolution. Because
we have to vote this down.
it was moved and it was seconded.
Okay?
Yep.
So we,
I'm suggesting that we vote down 5J
okay.
until
Now-
our attorney takes a look at appointment procedure.
Now, you can have a friendly amendment. If the individuals who brought the motion and seconded the motion would agree to remove the motion, then it can be removed from consideration and placed back on the table until such time as you're willing to move forward on the original motion. But without that happening, you have to vote the motion.
Yep. So we could either remove the motion for 5J, if those that
So in other words,
Put it
it's up
forward and second
to,
it.
the motion, I believe, was made by Mr. King and seconded by Mrs. Rothchild. Is that correct?
Yes.
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 So those two individuals would have to decide that they no longer wanted to move forward on this motion.
And we don't have that. So we vote on it then?
Yep.
Okay, anyone else on the question? All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
No.
No.
The ayes have it, and so moved.
I'd like to make a motion that we table this now so that we could look into it a little further and discuss it.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the question. Okay, all those in favor of introduction, or of tabling it, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved. 5J is tabled.
5K for introduction, a resolution authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to execute and submit a grant application on behalf of the City of Scranton's Office of Economic and Community Development to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, acting through the Commonwealth Financing Authority for a local share account grant pursuant to the PA Racehorse Development and Gaming Act for up to $395,760 to be used towards the Discovery Montessori School Building Upgrades Project.
At this time, I entertain a motion that item 5K be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question, all those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5L for introduction, a resolution authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to execute and submit a grant application on behalf of the City of Scranton to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, acting through the Commonwealth Financing Authority for a local share account grant pursuant to the PA Racehorse Development and Gaming Act for up to $500,000 to be used towards the purchase and installation of technology equipment for the City of Scranton's Police Department.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5L be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question, all those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. So moved.
Sixth order, 6A, reading by title, filed to Council Number 104, 2025, an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance of the City of Scranton to amend provisions related to hospitals and off-street parking and to amend the zoning map.
You have heard reading by title of item 6A. What is your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I move that item 6A pass reading by title.
Second.
On the question,
On the question.
Go ahead. On the question, I know that I appreciate Geisinger being here this evening. I appreciate hearing from the neighbors and residents here this evening. I know that we've scheduled December 2nd to have Geisinger come in here in caucus at 5:30 or 5:45. That will give us the ability to ask many of the questions that came up this evening directly to them, and any questions that maybe residents email to us to make sure that we're doing our due diligence. And that's why I would, I plan to support this this evening, but people want questions answered. Well, there's a process in place to get some of our questions answered by having them come in. Unless we pass this, we're never going to be able to ask those questions and have that caucus and even have a public hearing. So that's why I'm supporting this.
anyone else on the question?
Yes, on the question. So, as everybody in this room knows, 2 years ago, this came before us. Same questions came up at that point in time. Neighbors wanted questions asked or answered. Council and the neighbors asked for a plan. We didn't see a plan. The neighbors spoke while that ordinance was being created, and we took the input of the neighbors and we put that into the 2023 ordinance. At this point in time, we're again in a situation where there's no plan. That wouldn't have happened at that point in time if a plan was presented and we knew what we were getting. I do want to start off, but saying I'm in favor of the expansion of services. We do need a compromise, though. The zoning was written in 2023 to force you to come in and present a plan. I mean, that's what we wanted to see as a body. That's what the neighbors wanted to see. I think there's a process in place right now that you could use, and that's going to be my opinion, is that you could go to the zoning board, ask for that special exemption, ask for that variance, and the questions can be answered there, and we could move forward with this, and a compromise can be had. But you put me in a position where it's all or none, as I said before. If we're not going to use the process we have in place, zoning ordinances are written to protect the integrity of neighborhoods. That's why it's done. You're going to put me in a position where I'm for the expansion of services, but need a compromise with this neighborhood to protect the integrity of the neighborhood. And I do believe we could have both of those things. So I look forward to hear what you're going to say on December 2nd. I'm glad that you're coming. I'm glad that you accepted that offer. Some of the things, I think both of you heard what was said here tonight, and it was a repeat of what was said 2 years ago. Although you weren't here at that time, the exact same people may have said the exact same things. They're hearing it again. They wanted their input used, and I don't believe Geisinger has been. Now, the last two Hill Neighborhood Association meetings you guys have attended, I commend you for that. Thank you very much. But this may have went a lot smoother if you were meeting with the neighborhood over the last 2 years since this was on the back burner. So we have 30 days. This is the process. It's not being tabled because this body doesn't want to hear it. It's being tabled for 30 days so we could have a public hearing on it. So that's the natural progression of where this is going to go. So I don't want neighbors to step back and say, council tabled it. I think you still need to come here and you still need to express your concerns. So this 30-day process is what's in place, and that's where we're moving right now.
Thank you. Anyone else on the question?
Yes, on the question, I certainly want to add a few things. I've also been in attendance of the last two Hill neighborhood meetings. I was invited to the first one to to speak there about how we could work together with the neighborhood association along with council. And the second one, it was important for me to go to because of this having been introduced the previous week, and to hear out our neighbors. And I was taking notes the entire night on everyone who spoke, whether they were neighbors and they weren't in favor of this legislation, or if they were employed by Geisinger, or just in favor of the expansion as the zoning proposal is that we have in front of us. And there were a couple of themes that I have noted, and concerns from the residents, which I take very seriously, and I did last time too, and I was looking for answers, and I felt like I hadn't gotten them at that time. And so I know people want those answers now. They want an explanation of the plans, and also want a commitment for Geisinger to be working with the neighbors in the future. So when an expansion does happen, or there's building and construction, they're able to give their feedback and their concerns and have those seriously addressed. And I do want to put it out there. I know I've already been receiving some questions from people, but if there are specific questions you have for us in addition to what was asked this evening, then we can include that when we do have our caucus with Geisinger. So if I know in the past I've heard about concerns with regards to lighting, street parking, et cetera, that and the traffic patterns and things like that, in addition to the biggest concern being the height of the building, and then the purpose too. So if there are questions like that you have that council can ask during that caucus, then if you wouldn't mind sending those along to us or to Mr. Voldenberg. And then I know that they're also open to communicating and available. So if you even wanted to contact them, I'm sure we can get the information for Mr. Coleman, who has been speaking with some neighbors already. That's all that I have on this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so this is 6A, so on the question. So 6A was just read, all right? It's been seconded. So if we say aye, that means we're moving this to be tabled, okay? Do you understand? Does everybody understand that?
No, we're approving it in sixth, excuse
Right,
me.
no, we're approving it in 6A.
And then it would,
then have them.
then there'll be a motion to table.
Yeah, I'm going to read the motion. That's what I'm saying. We're approving this in 6A. It is procedural. It's a process. I mean, I'm going to do it with reservation. That doesn't mean I'm stamping it and loving it. That means I still want compromise. Who doesn't? And that means we approve it so then I can make the motion to table it, so everybody has the opportunity to continue this conversation in a productive and collaborative and hopefully a way that reaches a compromise. Because this piece of legislation, the mayor's amendment, not necessarily ours, but it was introduced to us, we can't do a friendly amendment to this at all. What I'm saying is a lot of times we can do a friendly amendment to a resolution on the floor. We've done it a lot. And through a collaborative, say, on the question, because maybe, we like parts of it, but not all of it. We can do a friendly amendment as we're voting or moving it forward from, 6th to 7th, or for final passage or final vote. This ordinance or this piece of legislation, we can't do any friendly amendments, folks, between like this week, next week, or when it comes back off the table. It's going to be a yes or no vote. So I hope, like I said, before that, there's some type of compromise or some other way where everybody wins. And that's good government if that happens. All right, I'm done.
Thank you. So this is vote on 6A.
So my last thing before, on the question, I'm going to be voting no to 6A, and the reason I'm going to be voting no to 6A is because I don't even believe this legislation should even be in this chamber. It should have went to the zoning board first. and then we would have known what's coming here. So the zoning board has come to us after after the zoning ordinance was passed in 2023. They've come to us with gray areas in that, square footage of apartments, parking spaces for multi-unit properties, things like that. They've come to us and we've come to them. We've had 2 meetings, and possibly our solicitors have had a 3rd meeting with them on things that they need in their toolkit to pass zoning in the city of Scranton. There were things that they came to us that said we need it. Those things haven't passed yet, but this piece of legislation is here, and I don't even believe it should be in our chambers.
Okay, so this is, again, 6A, the vote.
6A.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
No.
The ayes have it, so moved.
I make a motion to table item 6A.
I'll second that.
There's a motion on the floor and a second to table item 6A. This ordinance is being tabled until public hearing can be held Tuesday, December 9th, 2025 at 5:45 p.m. on the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
Seventh order, 7A, for consideration by the Committee on Public Works for adoption, filed to Council Number 103, 2025, establishing a no parking zone along the southeasterly side of the 500 block of South Washington Avenue.
What is the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Public Works?
As chairperson for the Committee on Public Works, I recommend final passage of item 7A.
Second.
As chairperson for the Committee on Public Works, oh, sorry, go ahead.
On the
On the
question.
question.
On the question.
Roll call, please.
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7A legally and lawfully adopted.
7B, for consideration by the Committee on Public Works for adoption, resolution number 288, 2025, amending contract originally titled Pave Cut Inspection to change the name of Mid-Atlantic Engineering, Inc. to Pannoni Associates, Inc., invoke the automatic 12-month contract extension, and update the fees to show a reduced rate for the extended year.
What is the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Public Works?
As chairperson for the Committee on Public Works, I recommend final passage of 7B.
Second.
On the question.
On the question, I've had several questions about our pave cut process. I'd like to know that it's going well, but I've never really received that answer. I did ask Ms. Eileen Cipriani what her take on it was, and she said that she recommends us pass this extension because they do a great job. Mr. Cusick also said that tonight as well, but I haven't seen any data on this, and I'll be voting no to 7B. I would like to see some data. I'm sure it will pass tonight, and after that, I'd like to see them come in for a caucus so they could explain what it is they're doing and how their service is going.
Anyone else on the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
No.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7B legally and lawfully adopted.
7C, for consideration by the Committee on Public Works for adoption, resolution number 289, 2025, authorizing the execution and submission of the grant application by the City of Scranton to the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation's Transportation Alternatives Set-Aside Program for the Providence Road Corridor Project.
What is recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Public Works?
As chairperson for the Committee on Public Works, I recommend final passage of item 7C.
Second.
On the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7C legally and lawfully adopted.
7D, for consideration by the Committee on Public Safety for adoption, resolution number 290, 2025, authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials of the City of Scranton to accept and disperse grant funds from the Walmart Spark Good Grant Program in the amount of $5,000 to support the Scranton Police Department's annual coat sale.
What is recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Public Safety?
As chairperson for the Committee on Public Safety, I recommend final passage of item 7D.
Second.
On the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7D legally and lawfully adopted.
7E, for consideration by the Committee on Community Development for adoption, resolution number 291, 2025, authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials of the city of Scranton to seek funding to establish a Pathways Navigator position dedicated to improving coordination among local food outreach and assistance agencies.
What is recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Community Development?
As chairperson for the Committee on Community Development, I recommend final passage of item 7E.
Second.
On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7E legally and lawfully adopted.
7F for consideration by the Committee on Finance for adoption, Resolution Number 292, 2025, authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to execute and enter into a contract with PMA Management Corporation for third-party administration, self-insured workers' compensation, and heart and lung claims.
What is recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Finance?
As chairperson for the Committee on Finance, recommend final passage of item 7F.
Second.
On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7F legally and lawfully adopted.
7G for consideration by the Committee on Community Development for adoption, Resolution Number 293, 2025, authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to execute and submit a grant application by the Office of Economic and Community Development of the City of Scranton to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, acting through the Commonwealth Financing Authority for a local share account grant for up to $821,100 to be used towards the All Saints Academy elevator renovations, installation of 2 interior ramps, and 3 accessible restroom facilities project.
What is recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Community Development?
As chairperson for the Committee on Community Development, I recommend final passage of item 7G.
Second.
On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7G legally and lawfully adopted.
8th Order 8A, filed to council number 102, 2025.
This is an ordinance, General City Operating Budget 2026. It has been tabled until a public hearing can be held this evening. It will be taken from the table on December 2nd, 2025, and placed in 7th order for a final vote. If there's no further business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you very much. This meeting is adjourned.